All right, everybody, good morning. It's time to go into a video on what to do to grow your crypto wealth. We've spoken about a couple of different options and a couple of different things that you could do when you have the money and where to put it, what to do with it. I'm going to be thinking purely in growth fashion and growth mode here today. And I'm going to recap a couple of videos before I go into the outline, just to show you what I mean by that. So I've discussed short-term investment strategies, less than 5 years. I did a video on the auto debt spiral on what to do for quick 3, 5, at very most 7-year intervals using equity and income funds. I've talked about medium-term growth. That's between 5 and 10 years. I did an emergency fund video if you've watched that. Interested in what to do with medium-term growth vehicles that are kind of a mix between municipal bond funds and equity and income funds. And then I've done another long-term video, which was crypto paying your rent for 10 plus years. That's the long-term time horizon. But I used municipal bond funds solely for that. And now this video, I'm going to be talking about solely growth funds and what to pay attention to and how to achieve that and maximize your earnings once you cash out and put it into something that's going to grow long-term. And I'm keeping this in mind because I'm going to review the Rule of 72 real quick. And then part of the Rule of 72 gives you 12% investments. And I'm going to go into what investments will give you 12% to kind of give you an inkling on where to go from there. And then the rules to building that portfolio for generational wealth. And I want to change here. A lot of the things that I've done up until this point have been focused solely on you as the investor. I want you to start thinking of not just yourself, but your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, and where that is going to come from and where that's going to fan out to. So just keep that in mind as I'm going through this. That is the approach behind this particular video. So the Rule 72, I mentioned this in a couple of videos before. I'm going to take a different approach to it today, but any game that you play, you have to learn the rules to. And the money game is no different. And the money game really does center around the Rule of 72, particularly if you're a value or growth investor. So the formula is easy. It just tells you how many years it'll take your money to double. So just take the percentage that you're investing in, divide it into the number 72, and you end up with a number. That number equals how many years it will take your money to double. So let's take a look at this in action. To double your money, let's say you're investing at 3%, just divide 3 into 72, and that's 24 years for your money to double. Something a little more aggressive at 6%, 6 into 12, 72 is 12. That means your money will take 12 years to double. 9 into 72 is 8 years. 10 into 72 is 7.2 years. That's how long it's going to take your money to double. And then 12 into 72 is 6 years. And that's really what I've seen, at least from a period of 20 to 30 years investing in growth funds. Sometimes they're up, sometimes they're down, but over the long term, you could probably get about 10 to 12%. So I'm going to focus on that for the purpose of this video, but I also want to throw out a little bit of a warning here because there's a darker side to the Rule 72 that works against you. 18 into 72 is 4 years, 24 into 72 is 3 years, 36 into 72 is 2 years. And I say warning on this because now you're in credit card territory. Your balance will double, not just the money you're investing. So if you've ever been in a situation where you're getting 19, 25, 29% interest rate on the credit cards, there's a reason for that. Because you have $5,000 on a credit card and you're paying every month. You may pay the minimum, you may pay a little more, you may pay a big chunk, but the balance never seems to go anywhere. The reason why is because you're on a ticking time bomb here with the Rule of 72, to where that $5,000 balance will double in a few years depending on the interest rate that you're receiving from the credit card company. So that $5,000 balance is going to turn to $10,000 in just a few years, whether you're paying a large chunk, the minimum, or just above the minimum on that bill every month. So do keep this in mind. That $10,000 balance will turn to $20,000 in a few more years after that. You are on a clock the moment you charge something on a credit card to pay it off as soon as possible. So this does not work against you. Try to stay in the green on this, not into the red. So what investments will give you 12%? I'm gonna make value investing very simple again. There's only 3 things that an investment will do. There's only 3 paths you're gonna find. It's either gonna grow, it's either gonna 2, provide income, or 3, it's gonna do a mix of both. Grow is growth funds, income is bond funds, and then growth and income or equity and income are usually a mix of the two inside of some kind of mutual fund package. So what investments will give you 12%? When you're reading the investment objective of a growth fund, I want you to pay attention to the following. If it says capital appreciation, if it says long-term growth of capital, or common stock of small cap companies, all three of those are purely in growth mode, and those are the things that you want to put your money into if you're looking to grow it, especially at those 10 to 12% ranges. And a note on this, if any objective in that fund talks about income, it is not a fund in growth mode. Skip those funds until later or use them for a different vehicle based on some of my other videos. So what investments will double your money every 6 years? Well, let's look at this. And you're going to have, maybe in the tens of thousands, maybe in the hundreds of thousands, maybe even in the millions with some of these crypto plays if you got in early and cheap and you got a good grip of it. So when you're in growth mode, you take that out. Obviously, there's taxes to it, but let's just get into the mechanics of this first. We'll deal with taxes later. But take a portion of them and place them into growth funds. So let's say you had a grip of $300,000 and you're placing it into a vehicle that will double every 6 years, which is a 12% rate of return. That means 6 years from now, it'll be 600,000. 12 years from now, it'll be 1.2 million. 18 years from now, it'll be 2.4 million. And 24 years from now, that $300,000 grip that you got from your crypto play is now worth 4.8 million. It's doubling every 6 years. All right. Not bad for just leaving it there and not adding anything else to it. Just shove it in the growth fund, let it compound. You'll pay interest, you'll pay taxes on the growth of it. But some people will say it's better to have 4.8 million in a portfolio than not. So just keeping that in mind, a mere 300,000 I say, from some of these plays that we're looking at, you can turn into something, 18 to 24 years from now if you put it into the right stuff. Or at least you have the right investment thesis on the growth side. But again, what I said at the beginning of the video is don't focus on you. Focus on your children or the generational wealth that you're trying to set up, right? Let's say you only have 75 grand. You don't have the 300 grand play, but you had 75 grand, and out of the line items that you've created, you didn't know where to put it. Well, put it into a growth fund at 12% for your children, or maybe you have a newborn baby on the way or just born a few months ago. Place 75 grand into a growth fund and just leave it there. Do not add to it. Just let it compound. That when your newborn child is 6 years of age, that'll be 150,000. It'll double to. In another 6 years, it'll double to 300,000. In another 6 years, your newborn baby will be in college, and those 18 years are going to go fast. It'll be $600,000. Now, possibly, if you were looking for a way to pay for college, this might not be a bad way to do it because they can take a little bit out of that and actually do so. But let's just keep the math simple to keep going on this. When they're 24 years old, now's the time they've graduated college. They may be looking to buy their first home or maybe finally move out of the house and get their own apartment. You've got 1.2 million in this growth fund that can probably help for that. In 30 years, at age 30, your newborn baby, it's 30 years later now, they may be looking to go to grad school or maybe to law school. Now you've got 2.4 million in a growth fund that they can cipher some of that money out to pay for those types of things because grad school and law school aren't getting any cheaper anymore. By age 36, your newborn is now 36 years old, maybe looking to start a family of his or her own, now has 4.8 million in that growth fund because it doubled again in 6 years. Tell them, your children at 36, when they're starting a family, to take 75 grand out of that 4.8 and just repeat the process. If they're going to have 3 kids, take 3 chunks of 75 grand out when their brand new babies do come about and have them put it into the growth funds and keep the cycle going for the generations. In 42 years of age, 6 years later, maybe after starting a family, maybe after getting through law school, they said, you know what, career change. I want to go into real estate law or maybe open my own real estate business. Well, now they have 9.6 million in a growth fund of seed money to help them do that because the funds keep doubling every 6 years. At age 48, 6 years later, now that's doubled to 19.2 million. Now your child has a grandchild that's 12 years old. There's probably travel soccer and softball and all sorts of other things. They have their own real estate business that they, put the money down to. They can pretty much choose their hours when they want to go, and they can travel around the country to the softball tournaments, to the soccer tournaments, or whatever they're into. It doesn't matter. But the idea behind this is generational wealth is now giving your children and grandchildren options that they would have not had simply because they decided to shove 75 grand from a crypto play into a growth fund. Your child's now 54. 6 years later, it doubles to 38 million. Your grandchild is now in college. So if there's any concerns about paying for college, this growth fund that now has 38 million in it is taking care of that pretty nicely, and so on and so forth. And it just keeps going. Keep the system going. Be in a growth mindset for you and particularly for your family that you haven't even met yet. Your child isn't even born, and that means your grandchildren aren't even born yet. But eventually this will happen, and these years go fast when you decide to have children and actually set this up. So keep this in mind on the future for these crypto plays, not just the present or what the current price is. Think of an investment thesis that will get you to the promised land for you and generations to come. Some final thoughts on this. I played a lot of sports over the years, high school, college. Was on a travel baseball team in college. I ran cross country. I played basketball. Every other sport under the sun I've played. I always had to learn the rules of that game before I was able to win that game. And money is no different. Learn the rules of the money game and then go out and win that game too. And if you want to be forward thinking on this, these crypto plays are not at the end of your investment life cycle. They're really just the beginning. They're there to give you that boost in that seed money that you would not have otherwise, so you could put it in to keep growing it. Lou always said you're about 3 or 4 plays from really changing your life around and making a difference. And this could be one of them if you're thinking long-term and you're thinking in growth mode. And I always say, think in abundance and growth in order to set up generational wealth. The moment you create a human being who calls you mommy and daddy, life is no longer solely about you anymore. So good parents understand this. And there are bad parents out there who either haven't realized it yet or may never do so. But each day we have a choice to break that cycle of bad parenting, improve our current situation. And everybody listening to this right now has that capability. So good luck with this. And I'm rooting for you. I'll see you all at the top.